And then to go ahead and start this talk, the New Mexico 502 Roundabout and Road Reconstruction Project starts Monday. It is expected to run for 350 working days and is scheduled to be completed in the winter of 2020. We had a little meeting with some of the businesses down on DP Road, and I think I kind of came across as the voice of doom at that, but you know, I want to make sure businesses know that this is going to impact them, and the county, the chamber, Main Street, we're here to try to get ahead of this. It is going to be painful, but we Main Street brought in a chamber or a construction mitigation specialist who is putting together a plan to kind of help come up with some ideas, and we are taking information from chamber members that are directly in the crosshairs of this, so that we can text you, email you in case there is late-breaking news that we feel you should know about. So there is a sign-up sheet just for that over here. And again, that's just for the businesses that are right there in the middle of this. So if you think that is you, be sure and sign up with your emergency contact info before you leave. So there is going to be economic impact from this, and I'm going to just be reaching out to the community to say, please don't forget about your local businesses during this. It is going to take a little bit of an extra effort, maybe to go through the cone zone to get down there to those businesses on DP Road, or maybe to get out to the food co-op. Don't be afraid to do that. I think it's important right now to remind everybody to support our local businesses, because it is going to be a tough time for all of us to get through. So shop local. It's the new black. Yeah, they need your help during this, okay? So get out there and shop local. All right, it's my pleasure to introduce Philo Shelton. He's a registered professional engineer in the civil engineering discipline. He earned his bachelor's degree in civil engineering at the Worcester Polytechnic Institute. Did I pronounce that?
Worcester, but
Worcester.
that's if you want to do the Boston accent.
Okay, thank you for that. He received his Master's of Science in Civil Engineering from the University of Colorado at Boulder. He's also a certified public manager. Philo joined the county in June of 2012. Prior to joining the county, Philo has been a public works director since '01, serving in the communities of Steamboat Springs and Black Hawk, Colorado. Philo also serves as the staff liaison to the Transportation Board. And then I also want to introduce Dennis Segura. He is the engineering project manager for the Department of Public Utilities. He'll be responsible for ensuring county residents receive a quality project with regard to utilities. And utilities is a big part of this project as well. So please join me in welcoming Philo and Dennis.
All right. Take it away. I think we'll just kind of, I like to stand and talk. It's a little easier. And I had these handouts. If any, hopefully everyone got one.
Just get some new people.
Yeah, I know. That's why I offered if you need any. I get some to Georgia. Give them back there. So just a little background. New Mexico 502 has been a DOT project for about 10 years. And what they initially do is an environmental assessment, and the project limits is from Tewa Loop up to Connect Street. And over the years, we had a lot of moving targets happening, and we've done a long-term partnership with DOT. Initially, through that environmental process, it took about 4 years to come to a conclusion with that program to do a roundabout at Central and Trinity. But in reactions to the Smiths development, the county's contribution to the project, we worked to build the drainage pipe that's from Connect down to DP Road, and extended the utilities at that time down to DP Road as well. And that was our contribution several years ago before Smith's opened. And then the DOT, through their process, bid the project 3 times, unsuccessfully did not receive 2 bids, so they didn't have a way to negotiate the bids. Each time it was just a single bid. And realizing after 3 bid processes, they needed more funding, and substantially more funding than what they had programmed. And they had to come up with an additional $4 million for the project. And so last year, I would go to the Transportation Commission meetings every other month, and I went all the way down to Deming and other places around the state to meet with our commissioners so that they knew this project's important for our community. And then they took their leftover money they get from federal projects. You'll get a project done, and then there'll be some contingencies remaining. And so they commingled all that funds, got enough put together, and rebid it this past fall, and was successful in meeting the budget and scope. So that's why it's taken so long. But it's been a 2-year bidding process, pretty arduous. So, and then the contractor given the award, because the funding, it follows a state funding cycle, July 1st, and time you bid and award, it was already too late in the season to start any of the work. So in order for us to actually have a project out to bid, Dennis and I worked closely together. The DPU has to deposit all the funds for their work because the contractor's going to perform a lot of the utility relocations. So we were shuttling checks back and forth. $2.6 million?
$2.6 million.
Yeah, and back and forth. So that we announce it now, but we didn't have a Brinks truck. But but the DOT does not do the wire transfer. They do it the old-fashioned way. So we brought a check down a day too early, and we had to pick it up and bring it back, and so we did a little shuffle. But it got done. But one of the things that I invited Dennis Segura here for is the initial project is really a utilities project. We got $2.6 million in new utilities going in the ground. And you probably remember some years ago by the fire station, they're redoing all the high pressure gas lines and brought in a new regulation station. But that hasn't connected into town yet, and that's what this project's going to help make those final connections. We put in, with the Smiths project, a high pressure line as well, but it's just sitting there waiting for this connection. So I'll probably invite Dennis and me to go through a little of those details. But what that happens is most of the work along the south side of 502 will be utility work, but keep in mind utilities have to connect to customers, so there's going to be a lot of cross-trenching and so forth. But Dennis, you want to go over kind of
Sure.
the scope of your improvements?
Yeah. Good morning, all. Good morning. One of DPU's responsibilities early on was to go ahead and take the Department of Transportation's project to go ahead and say, here's the geometry for the roundabout, here's how it's got to go, and now how we're going to get the utilities into the section. So it was a 2-year process in developing a project to go ahead and find a corridor, considering all the other utilities that are already existing. So when you really think about it, you just see the surface. You just see the asphalt and the curb and gutter. But there's a maze of pipelines, cables, and other infrastructure underneath the ground. The existing storm drains, or how do we get around those? So there was quite involved for a number of years to go ahead and develop this program. We were successful in submitting our plans to the Department of Transportation's engineering consultant, who is Sauter Miller out of Santa Fe in Albuquerque, and they incorporated our plans into that. So we've had numerous meetings with the Department of Transportation to explain exactly how this is going to work. Like I said, we had $2.6 million, and that's for, we have 2 different water systems up here. We have our transmission system, which comes from our lower wells, and they pump all the way up to the wells here on the west side. Without having a means to go ahead and provide that, we could go ahead and potentially have had some shortages on some water. So we had to figure all that out. So we have a transmission water line that's going to go ahead and be relocated. Our distribution water has to be relocated. We have an electric. We're one of the few utilities in the entire state that a municipality owns and operates all the utilities with the exception of phone. So we have the electric system is going to go ahead and be all the way from the existing endpoint that we had at DP Road, and we're going to go all the way down to Tewa. It's a complete relocation, transformers, switches, cables, everything else. We also entered into a mutual assistance agreement with Comcast. And Comcast, we are going to go ahead and provide a lot of the materials that the contractor is going to go ahead and install. So Comcast is a part of this project as well. We do have natural gas, as Philo mentioned. The reason you have these breaks, we will run from now to November, and then we've got to have a break because our gas demand for the community is such that we have to have this loop feed that's already in place, but without having to go ahead, if something were to happen and it gets disrupted, we could impact the entire community. So there's a gap between November to March, and that's why that postponement is there. So you're going to get a little bit of a breather in that period of time, and hopefully that won't impact the Christmas season and all that type of thing for businesses. We also go ahead and have the water distribution, like I said, the distribution system. We have a sewer project that has to go through there as well. So we've got our work cut out for us. When I say us, the Department of Transportation put this project out to bid. It went to Star Paving. So Star Paving is the main road and utility contractor. They have sublet a lot of the work, and New Mexico Underground is going to be handling a lot of the utility work for us. So they're going to go ahead and do the utilities portion. The Department of Public Utilities' role is to go and ensure that they are building it to our standards. We have some very high standards that we expect a contractor of any, on any project to go ahead and fulfill their roles and responsibilities to the community. So we made painstaking measures to make sure that each and every one of those utilities gets put in and tested properly, and so that it is a long life project. So that's going to be our role, is to go ahead and oversee and monitor the installations. The road construction and the actual physical installation of the conduits, etc., is going to be starting. Okay? I'd encourage you to go ahead and sign up for that cone zone. I think the county already has put an invitation out to the residents. The cone zone is a weekly update, so they will be able to tell you what phase we're working on and where we're at any particular time. We have also gotten and taken, because we know that you have businesses here. And so whenever we do go ahead and work with this, the lateral crossings that Philo mentioned, we have agreements with the contractor that the outages be minimal in length, no more than 8 hours. So in an 8-hour period, if we have to disrupt your water or your gas or whatever, it will be within that scope of in and out, an 8-hour period. Okay? We also notify that business that 48 hours in advance, we're going to be knocking on your door as a business, we're going to be hanging door hangers and advising them that within 48 hours from that point, we're going to go ahead and be doing that work. So you're well informed of what's going on. And I think that's the key to communications. We do have it set up that all the phone calls having to do with road construction, if you're frustrated about a pothole or something that's going on, please don't call the Department of Public Utilities. That's going to go to be the road contractor. Okay, so they will have signs on either side of the project with their phone numbers. If you have something you're having to do with road construction, please contact Star Paving. okay? Or DOT, which is right underneath that. If it's a utility issue, please call us. We're willing to do whatever it takes to make this project a success. Okay?
Yeah, I'd encourage you, if your utility is out over that time period, beyond that, you want to call the utilities. I've done several projects where, their electric or phone's out for several days, and it's like, well, if we knew in advance, we would have handled it right away. So sometimes, and that's not necessarily, just as part of construction, there's a lot of confusion. So if you don't know who to call, just call us, and we'll get you routed to the right person
I
too.
was just going to ask if there's any questions, and I see this gentleman raising his hand.
I think my biggest question is, what part of the day is this 8-hour period?
Okay, the 8-hour
Is it gonna
period,
be right in the
the
middle of the
contractor is
business day?
supposed to work from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. He's going to have that's his work schedule. So Monday through Friday is what they decided to work. We thought that they might have gone ahead and done it during the weekends, but they chose not to. And we don't oversee that portion of the contract from the utility standpoint. So it's going to be an 8 to 5 type of project. There is supposed to be continuous traffic lanes that are supposed to be constructed, and that's going to be in the first phase. Is they're going to go in and start taking out all those medians that are on.
Not the construction part, but the utility, turning
Just-
off utilities.
When they do the cutover, he's saying, is it going to be between 8 and 5, that 8
Yeah.
hours?
That's just going to depend on what utility it is, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do some lateral dry runs. Okay, we'll do some lateral dry runs, put in the infrastructure. Then when the main facility is put in, where it will actually serve the purpose, then we will go and contact you. So it's going to be very short. Yes, sure.
Hey, Dennis. I was just wondering, what area of town is going to be affected by these potential utility outages? Is it from Hilltop to the east? Is it going to be the whole downtown corridor?
It is, all of the first phase of the NM 502 project was in front of Smith's, from Connect over to Connect. There is going to be picking up work from Connect, from DB Road, is where we're going to pick up with the utilities. And we're going to go ahead and go to the north, and then follow it all the way going east to Tailwalk. The north side of, the west side of Tailwalk. We also have a section that is going to go ahead and run from East Road going up 4th Street. So there's going to be some construction that's going on in that area as well, and including the entrance to Central Avenue. That will also be impacted because that's going to be the merge point where all these roads get tied together.
Okay, so but utilities, I would assume, is going to affect possibly a slightly larger footprint than that?
Just that section that I just described,
Oh,
from
okay.
DP to Tailwalk,
Okay,
is the only thing that should be affected by it.
so Merrimack won't be, or Smith's?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's what I mentioned earlier, is when we did our contribution to the project years ago, it was trying to minimize all the disruptions. We actually got the utilities extended past DP Road to the east. So there'll always be 2 lanes of traffic going out of DP Road, short of maybe when they need to do the paving and drainage and curb and gutter work. That's going to be towards the end of the project when they do all the tie-ins and create all new pavement. The area between DP Road and Connect, which is your business impact, will be replacing some sidewalk curb ramps, and a lot of the sidewalks have heaved over the years and don't have appropriate cross slopes, so they're going to replace those sidewalks to the right grades for Americans with Disability Act. And so there'll be the improvements like that, but not major outages or even tearing up the road. It's going to be a mill and inlay between that stretch. But from DP Road down, the profile of the road is going to be torn up and relayed with new gravel and asphalt and curb and gutter. Because if you can imagine, the roundabout's a huge, I kind of explain it like a huge plate, a table, and it needs to be fairly level so you can navigate through it. And so they're changing the profile of the road. Some areas will see an increase in grade of 2 feet and a loss of 18 inches in other areas. And that's a big driver why all the utilities are being replaced, so that you can have the correct cover over the utilities. So that area is going to be more disruptive. There's some retaining walls going in and so forth to make all that grading work. And in the end, though, it's all going to be landscaped from end to end, and basically from DP Road out to Tewa will be all re-landscaped, and will create a nice entry in the town when it's all said and done. But it's going to be 2 years of construction season, so.
Are
Yeah.
you saving those trees that are along?
So our Parks Department has pulled out materials, landscape materials that they can save.
Great.
I know that the park in the middle island there between 4th, Trinity and Central that's got to be leveled down. As I mentioned, it's way up in the air, and those trees are not, they're just too old in age to save. So, yes.
6. We're saving 6.
Oh, you got 6 trees you're gonna pull out? Okay,
Correct.
thanks.
And
Nice
those
job,
okay.
Joe.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, Joni,
as acting pros
she
manager.
was acting Parks, Open Space and Recreation Manager, so thank you.
What's a good utility number for us to call if it's past the 8 hours? You
You
said call
can-
utilities, but what's a good number?
Okay.
It is, please.
3331 is the utility number.
31. I didn't hear the first 3 numbers.
662,
662 and 505, right?
yes.
505, 662, 3331?
Right.
Okay.
And after hours, you're supposed to call non-emergency
Police,
dispatch.
yeah, police now.
After hours.
After-
222.
Yeah, it's also in the phone book.
222.
You're giving us a different number now.
That's the police department.
Because they
Oh.
shuttle it to utilities for.
Correct.
Okay.
After
After
hours.
Yes.
5?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think what Dennis mentioned, they do the door hangers. There'll be contact information on the door hanger, because they'll give you 48 hours notice at a minimum. And this Cone Zone postcard we passed around,
Right.
please enroll in that, and you'll stay in touch with what's occurring. We'll try to do kind of a 2-week snapshot of things, and keep in mind, like today's weather, we got additional snow that wasn't really forecasted, and so things change and get delayed, or they may need to move to another section of the road to keep the crews moving along. But I would encourage you to sign up for that. That will tell you when maybe you're getting close to disruption. We can have discussions. And we're looking at this as a partnership with the business community, and work closely with Rin and Main Street, and trying to, we have a construction mitigation specialist that Main Street has secured, and he's going to come on board here next month, and we'll be able to get communication pushed out so you're not surprised by something coming up. So, yes.
I don't know if you're gonna further, if you have presentation on plans, but earlier iterations of this 502 had discussion about closing off Canyon, and I'm wondering, has that gone away?
So-
Is this a redo?
Yeah, I didn't bring, construction plans today, but the canyon gets realigned to Arroyo Lane. And so there'll be a period of time when that transition will occur.
And that's still in the works? Okay,
Yes,
thank
it is.
you.
Yeah. A lot of times with road projects, you try to get realigning the road intersections so you don't have cross-turning movements, and it allows for the traffic to flow safer. So you don't have multiple points of entry, and so this segment here between the roundabout and Canyon was a consolidation, and trying to get those entrances to align. We couldn't move the residential street, for example, but we had the opportunity through the school property that DOT acquired to realign
So
Canyon.
that will happen within till 2020, that airline?
Yeah, it'll be done in 2020 for sure. So, I gave this handout here just to mention that there's a lot of other activities occurring on DP Road, and the lime green is the New Mexico 502 project with DOT, but the area in orange is the affordable housing project that Bethel Development is planning to start some construction this summer, right, Tony?
Yes.
And then across the street, that pink area is the staging area for Star Paving to place all their materials and have a staging yard. And then the purplish rectangle is also a senior affordable housing project that's in review right now. Council supported a land donation, and right now it's being reviewed for tax credit and type of financing for senior affordable housing. So there's many projects in that area. And then we have some utility sewer and water extensions to these projects. DP Road has some old infrastructure. So just want to mention that, and then I'll get you in the end there, Dave. And then the last area of green is the cleanup by N3B. And they've accelerated their plans to clean up this site. Originally there was a 10-year program, and they're planning to do the cleanup of this site in 5 years. So there'll be quite a bit of trucking initially, of removing old concrete foundations, and then they're going to be pulling up old process piping that's buried underground and cleaning up that site to get it to, I believe, an industrial level that will eventually be turned over to the county when it's all clean.
That's the first phase. There's a second phase
Okay,
that extends beyond that concrete,
okay. Good to know. Thank you.
which is the underground burial business.
Okay. Dave had a question, then I'll get to you.
You know, Philo, one of the questions that's come up from people down DP Road, besides the disruption that's going to be from the 502 reconstruction, is in Star Green, where, and that apparently is a repaving and everything down to the new apartment complex.
Right.
So when will information and who is responsible and all that, to those businesses, that may be as disruptive as the 502 up at the end?
Right. So
Information on that, yeah.
we have a development agreement with Bethel. They're going to actually do some road improvements up to the entrance of the orange subdivision, and if they get approval to do the senior affordable, then it'll continue down to the purple site. So it's a little in flux. We don't have all the information yet because the application is pending. But that will be managed through our department with Public Works, and utilities will be involved with the upgrades of utilities to reach that site. And Joni might have a new update. She worked with it.
And so we should know by the end of June definitively the extent of that construction, whether or not they got their low-income housing tax credits for the senior affordable project. So as soon as we know, we will definitely communicate that out.
Then you have a question.
When DP road is redone, is that going to be up to like complete street standards and sidewalks?
Yes, it'll have
How-
sidewalks on both sides and curb and gutter. Yes. Ken?
So, I'm a business on DP Road, right?
Yes.
And I keep seeing that people are going to need to get through like 7 colors to get to me. And when we had the Smiths project, we were down by about 40% for a full summer. And I can't survive 40% for 2 years. Is there, and a lot of the problems with the Smiths project where we couldn't get the information we needed at a good time. Ren has already helped by creating a map for us, which is something we never had before, but is there up-to-date stuff that we can post to help people know where to get to us, that kind of thing?
Yes, and that's what I'd say. Sign up for that cone zone, and we're happy through this construction mitigation specialist to help with that additional level of work that, you know, as far as how to reach out to your customer base.
Because I was making, Google Maps every
Yeah.
day for about 2 months.
Yeah. We definitely will work with you on that.
And it's always been easier when I'm working with the county as far as that goes, but when we're talking about a bunch of other contractors and like
Yes.
7 different things that are all going on the same street, it scares me half to death. Can you talk a little bit about the red line too? That's something that came up in our meeting.
So the red line is the sewer line work to support the site. So if you imagine everything has to flow downhill with the sewer connection. So that is, there's going to be a lift station at the bottom here and connecting sewer lines to that lift station. And then the pipe coming up, there'll be a force main that carries the sewage back to DP and Trinity, where it flows by gravity from there.
And how much of the things are gonna be torn up for that? Because we
Well,
have-
this is actually off-site, won't be on DP Road. It's short of the crossing for the affordable housing project.
Right, well, we have a business that connects up at the top here, and they were talking about needing to get in through one direction or another, and it looks like both directions are going to be seeing.
They should have access to get around 6th Street there.
So Lou, what he was just asking or sharing, will businesses who may be really affected dramatically by this construction, will they be able to recoup some of their losses or projected losses?
That's something that can't be done. The best we can do is give good information out on how to get people to your business. There's no type of mitigation fund for that type of work.
The one thing I will go ahead and mention is that when the road construction is going on, it's built in phases, okay? It's just not, the first phase is going to be the demolition, so they're going to come through so they can build the detour roads and the other driving surfaces that are going to be needed to go ahead and do that. So that's going to be the first phase, so it's going to look like the whole project is underway. I mean, the whole project from Tailwatt to DP Road. But once that goes, then they're going to start over at the Tailwatt side and start building going to the west. So it's going to be in phases, so it's not going to be like DP Road will be impacted every day for 350 construction work days, okay? So it's going to be phased in, and I think that's going to afford some of those businesses to not be impacted as much, okay? So I just thought I'd share that with you, but it is to be phased in, okay?
I had this question in the back.
Yeah, so the red line question is, so you're planning on trenching 6th Street, is that correct?
There's a little section that connects into 6th Street below the Merit Building.
Okay,
It's not going to trench 6th Street because
No,
there's already a
because
connection
that was
there.
that was redone,
right.
I don't know, about 4 years ago.
So 6th Street is between.
But there's a connection off of there.
So yeah, I mean, the red line is 6th Street where
Yeah.
it connects to DP. Right? So anyway, we use 6th Street. So we're just sort of curious if there's a timeline or specifics on what's happening with it yet.
It won't ever be completely closed down, is my understanding. Do you have further on that, Dennis? Because this is a utilities project. This is not part of the 502 project.
Right.
It's my understanding that access and traffic flow is supposed to be continuous in both lanes. That's why the detour roads are going to be. Access to the individual businesses are also to be maintained throughout the project. You should always have access to DP Road, to the church, to the veterinary facilities, to the other businesses, to the assisted living facilities. So there's supposed to be continuous access to them. They are also going, the DOT is requiring them to put business access signs up so people will know businesses are still open on DP Road and other places. So they're not going to go out there and put down your particular business on there, but they are going to go ahead and put signage that it is. I think it's really going to be up to the community to go ahead and be cognizant about those businesses out there and their needs to survive, just like you pointed out. So it's going to be more of the community, the Chamber of Commerce here to go ahead and promote that type of thing and maybe put it out, say, don't forget about our businesses on such and such a street, in such a location. So it's really going to be up to the community to help make you through this.
Linda, you...
So there's always intended to be able to be traffic flow in and out. There might be rerouting or whatever, but there's always intended throughout this whole project, traffic in and traffic out.
Yes.
And then the best way to get the information on what's, if there is, what's the latest fine details will be that.
Cone zone.
Or the cone zone?
Mm-hmm.
The cone zone.
That postcard we just passed around,
Okay.
hot off the press. I also just wanted to mention on the back side of the handout, with the colored handout, is Star Paving's 2-week schedule that's anticipated to start next week. I believe most of what we're going to see is setting up all the detour signage. You know, there's been some variable message boards put in place already. That's just kind of let people know it's coming, and now next week you'll start seeing actual real cones, right? Go out there and drums and so forth to section off the area. And what they're planning to do is remove those landscape medians to create that detour paving so they keep the 2 lanes open all the time. They actually might drive a little better because the current pavement is atrocious. So,
Let me pick up on that, Carl, because it kind of came up in the meeting the other morning, but not really. This project's scheduled to go to west end of Taylor Loop.
right.
The pavement is actually worse down towards the east at Airport Road.
Yeah.
If the lady from the state acted like she just totally ignored it on purpose, but is there an add-on or something to?
I wish there was. I've asked about doing an add-on many times. We've made requests to the state for paving that, just that, all the way up to Airport Basin projects to have it all repaved. But right now, it's the state's short of funding. That's just to be honest. So they're gonna just have to do patching for now until they can get some funding. And I imagine next month's bills. I know there's bills in the legislature to fund roads more robustly. So I'm hopeful that some of these projects, we submitted them. Sometimes they look kind of shovel ready because the request it has been made, and then they can pull them off the shelf and go, okay, we can do this mill and inlay type of project for that segment.
To add just a little bit to that about the additional, DOT struggled to go ahead and get enough funding to complete what's planned for right now. In fact, there was even talk about scaling back the project because of the cost of this project. So I think they're stretched to the limit right now for this project's and its funding, and I don't see any add-ons to this project.
Yeah, they can't because they have this environmental assessment that says these are the project limits, and that's it.
I was in a Senate Transportation Committee meeting earlier this year. There was someone from DOT there, and I don't remember exactly, but I believe the number they said were they were well over $750 million short this year for what they needed for road improvements across the state. So that kind of gives you the magnitude of their budget issue.
So just seeing the schedule, Philo, that this is March 17th to the end of the month. Will
Right.
we be seeing regular monthly schedules?
Exactly,
like
that's
this?
what that cone zone's supposed to do. And it will change. You'll see these little X marks in the days. They might shift over if we get bad weather, for example, and they're not able to do the work. We've had the same issue with trying to patch Diamond last week, and this week we just don't have the weather and not dry enough to do any more work. So it's just a challenge of construction. So hopefully we'll get through this cycle of storms, get a good period of weather, but then you get monsoons, always get monsoons, and that's going to be a mess.
Are you encouraging commuters to take the truck route?
So it's going to be just whatever information that we can put out. I think there's going to be times where truck route's going to be more comfortable. But today there's water line work over there. So I think either way you'll hit a little bit of delays. So
I know it's a little bit outside of the lime green one again, but we've been told that we're going to be getting sewage down on BP Road, down the road.
Mhm.
Is that something that we're going to need to connect to, and do we need to pay for that as businesses?
I would say that's quite a bit into the future at this point. We're working with DOE on getting an easement to do a forced sewer main at the bottom of DP Road across up to Airport Road. But they have some cleanup work that needs to occur before we can build that. So there's a little bit of time, probably in the, that 5-year or more, I'm not sure, maybe you know, but there's some time before we can make some contacts on that. I know there's several businesses that would like to have sewer service, gravity sewer service, which I think that's our ultimate goal.
There was supposed to be a state meeting last night. Do you know if it's been rescheduled, and if so, when?
So I have not been able to confirm the rescheduled date.
Okay.
It may be next Tuesday, but it could be out further. They
And
initially
Julia-
wanted next Monday, but the facility was not available, so.
Okay, and Julie will put out a press release?
Yeah, we'll put out, you'll put it in that cone zone as well, when the next meeting is.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, another question.
No, this is an absolutely shameless plug. Economic Development Strategic Plan is actually up on OpenGov, which you access through the Los Alamos County website. And since the county chair is here, I'll put in a plug for her too. The council's strategic goals are there also, and we are actively seeking public input on both our economic development strategic plan and then the strategic goals for council. OpenGov at the county website.
Good. Any more questions about the project? Please, you have to come by after if you have individual questions. I'll stay around too. So, all right. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Dennis.